Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for the Into the LightWeb podcast, and I have got another episode for you of my $1 Million Lab. And today I'm joined by my amazing guest, Jeremy. Jeremy, come and introduce yourself. Tell people what it is that you do in the world.
Well, I'm not really that cool, but thanks for the compliment. My kids say I'm pretty boring, so I'm going to take that as a compliment. So I own I'm the chairman and founder of a company, an organization called Seventh Level, and we're an organization that helps salespeople. Maybe some people on here are in sales. We help sales professionals. We help coaches. I know you train a lot of coaches. We help executives and managers and leaders and business owners, and we help them by transforming the way they sell and communicate and actually learn how to use techniques and certain questions that work with human behavior rather than against it. There's a massive difference in that. And those are called Neuro Emotional Persuasion questions. It stands for NEPQ. We can get into that a little bit later today if you want to. And we teach that with the right tonality that really puts a prospect at, I would say, ease, and really eliminate sales pressure and gets the prospect that you're talking to actually want to engage with you, to actually want to open up to you, and eventually persuade themselves that they want to change their situation. So in a nutshell, that's what our organization does. Pretty boring stuff.
It's not boring at all. I love sales. So have you always been in sales? Is that a thing that you've always done, or?
Yeah, and I'm in my office here. I'm gonna turn down the air. It's hot here. It's like 97 degrees. It's like in the morning. It's like 97. It's crazy. Yeah. So I got involved in selling when I was a 21-year-old college student. Okay. I was broke. I was newly married. I had a kid on the way. So there was no plan B for me. There was plan A. Okay. 21-year-old kid got into sales, really struggled. I would say and I won't tell you the whole story. I don't want to, go into all that, but got my first job selling home security systems door to door. And I thought that selling was going to be easy because that's what the manager and everybody that recruited me told me. Like, oh, you're just going to show up and people are going to buy and you're going to make all this money and blah, 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 blah. And I was this 21-year-old kid. I was just naive. I didn't know what I was really getting into. And I started knocking on doors and I was talking about all the features and benefits of the product and I was going to help them. And I started noticing that, and I was really excited because they told me to be excited when you were selling, that people would see your enthusiasm and somehow want to buy as well. And I just hook, line, and sinker believed that. And I started to notice that I was getting all these objections like, we can't afford it. We don't need it. Your price is too high. I need to keep looking around. I need to get more quotes. Can you leave me some information? I need to talk to my spouse. Can you call me back in a week, a month, a year later? And I got to a point, I would say after probably this is a long time ago, 20 years ago, probably 7 or 8 weeks into that, where I thought to myself, maybe selling just wasn't for me. If anybody on here is listening, like maybe you're in that shoes as well. Maybe you're a coach or maybe you're an executive and you're communicating with a prospect and you're just beating your head against the wall. That's where I was. And I got to a point where like, hey, maybe this just isn't for me. Maybe I just need to bag out and just get a regularly salaried job and just, stay in the status quo. And I remember there was a lot that led into this, but I remember one night being picked up in a van by the sales manager. They come around and pick you up in the neighborhoods, if you're door-to-door sales. And he popped in and I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to quit tomorrow. I can't take this. I didn't make any money that day. Had not made any money that week. Because it's a straight commission job. So imagine making $0. Like I could have
all day and like nothing.
I could have dug ditches and made more than I did that week. Okay. I was completely like, how am I going to do this? I'm going to have to tell my wife at the time that we're going to have to move in with your parents. How embarrassing, right? This kid. And so he popped in this Tony Robbins CD. I'm sure a lot of your audience know who Tony Robbins is, right? And a personal development guy. And Tony said something like this. I might be butchering it, but he said most people fail for the simple reason they don't learn the right skills that are necessary to succeed. They don't learn the right skills. Now he goes on to say,
he
goes on to say, everybody's taught skills. He's like, everybody is taught skills, but he's like, people who fail are the ones who are not taught the right ones. And so I was like, wow, I never thought about this. Like, it was like the heavens opened up to me and God was like speaking to me. The universe was speaking.
And was that the first time that you'd kind of encountered any sort of self-help type?
I was 21. That was literally the first time I had heard anything like that. So I want to be very upfront with everybody. I grew up in a town in the middle of Missouri here in the United States that has less than 800 people in it. Okay. My teachers did not train me on the right mindset. They didn't train me the right skills. My parents didn't have that. I grew up on a cattle ranch. So I grew up taking care of cattle. That's what I knew. Making fence, dairy as well. Milking the cows at 4 a.m. That was my life. Okay. That's where I was coming from. I had no background in, hey, my way of thinking.
Tony Robbins in that car just blew your mind.
Well, it did. It was like the heavens opened up. I'm not kidding when it's like divine providence at that point. Yeah. And I thought to myself, maybe what the company was training me and what I was learning from what I now call the old sales gurus, maybe they just weren't the right skills. Like maybe they were outdated and just didn't work very well. Okay. So I committed to myself and my family that I was going to have to learn skills, right? The right ones, because I know like your audience, like me, they want to provide a great lifestyle for their families as well. So my major dilemma at this point was I was learning these traditional selling skills from the quote unquote gurus. Okay. Push, assume the sale, posture people, boiler room selling, a form of consultative selling, ask a few questions to find out the needs and then try to pitch them. Okay. Which doesn't really work that well.
Them into submission.
Yeah, it just doesn't work well. Today's consumers are far more sophisticated. They're more cautious. They're more skeptical than ever before. So I was learning all those skills at the same time. But at the same time, my major in college was, lo and behold, behavioral science and human psychology and the study of the brain. And I started learning from experts in that field that the most persuasive way was over here to communicate with an individual or individuals. But what all the gurus were teaching me was something completely opposite over here. Okay. And so what I did is I took what I was learning in like human behavior and human psychology. Okay. And we can talk more about this if you want. And I combined that into sales. And I started learning how to use techniques that actually work with human behavior. Okay. That work with human behavior rather than against it. Because traditional selling, really that push, ask a few questions, pitch them, try to push them into doing it, really causes and triggers sales resistance. So I learned with human behavior how to get people to pull me in. And at that point, selling became very, very easy and extremely profitable. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. I love it. I think also as well, a lot of it is about, people have a need.
Yeah.
They do have a need, and it is about being able to fulfill that need. But I think the old paradigm shuts down the conversation that leads to them even admitting that they have the need.
Well, can I make a suggestion on that? Because you're dead on. And here's what we have to understand. Like if you're listening right now, because a lot of people, when I get on podcasts or even when I'm training audiences, they're like, well, how's this going to help me? Like, I'm not really in sales, Okay. Let me make a suggestion. In our day and age, everyone is in sales. Everyone, I don't care what you do or who you are, even if you don't even get paid a commission for influencing somebody, you are out there every day in your life trying to persuade, you're trying to influence, you're trying to convince, and you're trying to move others. I call that non-sales selling. Let me give you a few examples, Joanna. If you're a business owner trying to get your employees to follow the vision of where you want your company to go, what are you doing? You're trying to persuade, influence, you're trying to move others, right? If you're an employee who's trying to convince your boss to give you a pay raise, well, you're trying to persuade, influence, you're trying to move others. If you're an attorney listening right now, and you're trying to convince a judge that your client is innocent, well, you're trying to convince, persuade, and move others. If you're a politician, for hell's sake, that's a whole nother subject, who's trying to get people to vote for you, Well, you're trying to persuade, you're trying to move, trying to convince others.
I couldn't agree more. I really believe that we're all selling something, whether it's an opinion, whether it's a course or a product, or whether it's just an idea that you have, right? And I really, really agree with that. And I feel like, and for me, the way that I always see sales, because I've been in sales for a long time. So I used to own my own shops. And I had brick and mortar designer clothing shops. And I had, and, you know, training my staff in sales was really interesting because, you know, I didn't like the traditional model that I had learned from the big department stores. I didn't like that. And what I discovered, just like you discovered, it was the closed door, the energy shut down. And so we created a system called a traffic light system. We use the traffic lights. So we assume that everybody steps into the store on red. And they're closed. They're like, and so what we have to make sure is that in order to lead them to open, we have to ask an open question. Because people, what they'll say is like, and it's so amazing because we used to do this in the store, and we used to say to people, you know, like the traditional way was, how you doing? Can I help you? Right.
And they say, what?
It has one answer.
Just looking.
One answer only. Just looking. No, I'm okay. You know, and then they'll start looking for the exit. Right. So we would, when everybody comes in on red, we have to disarm them. And so we would say, what a gorgeous day it is. And the amount of people that would go, no, just looking. Oh, well, no, what? Wait a minute. And then we would, because they were so expecting.
It's a knee-jerk reaction, right?
It was a knee-jerk reaction if the sales assistant spoke to you, right? Like it was a knee-jerk reaction. So we created this system, and my company, a couple of the brands that we had, we became the largest Scottish account in Scotland. And like my main store was in a town of 1,500 people. And I became these big brands, like big brands that were in big cities like Glasgow and Edinburgh. And I became their #1 account in Scotland because our sales
you learned how to disarm the prospect. You know, another good thing you can do. Another good thing you do if you sell retail like that to combat that, because when you say, how are you doing? And they say, just looking, it's just a knee-jerk question, which triggers a knee-jerk answer response, right? They don't even, you could say you won $10 million, just looking. They don't know what's going on, right? So what you want to say is you want to preeminate that objection by saying, hey, welcome into the store today. Are you guys just out looking around today? Yeah. Oh, okay. Do you know what you're looking for? And then boom. You see how you eliminate that objection by just acknowledging that objection?
Absolutely.
Hey, are you guys just out looking around today?
Yes, we were really effective in that, and it worked really well. And we took them into Amber, and then eventually they got to the stage where they would speak to us and tell us, actually, here's what I'm really wanting. And then because at that point they had judged us as a safe person, that we weren't going to sell them whatever. Because that's the fear, isn't it? Right. That's why they come in on red, because they're holding that fear. And I think, you know, for me, what I've taken that into my coaching business going forward is that I'm always willing to get on if we're talking about sales call, I'm always willing to get on a sales call and be a no. Right. Sure. And to be fully just open to having the conversation, as opposed to, this is how this scenario is going to end. No, I leave it wide open, and I just really allow a beautiful conversation to happen, because if it is going to be a yes, it's going to be a yes. And if it was going to be a no, it was going to be a no. And I think people are intelligent, right? People are intelligent. They don't need beaten over the head.
Well, it just triggers resistance. I mean, one thing we have to realize with human psychology, the way a human brain works, that within the first 7 to 12 seconds of every sales call you're on, or every sales interaction you're on, maybe if it's over the phone, maybe if it's over Zoom, maybe if it's in a house, or if it's in a boardroom meeting, or door to door, it doesn't matter. Realize this: your prospects are subconsciously, they can't help it, they're subconsciously picking up on your verbal and nonverbal cues based on your tonality and what you are saying and or asking, that triggers their brain to do one of two things. Number one, If you come across aggressive or needy or attached, okay, and you don't know the right questions to ask, the brain goes into what we call fight or flight mode, right? You've heard of that. They try to get rid of you very fast. And they say things like, oh, I'm too busy. Can you call me back later? Or I don't need it. Or we already have that. Or just looking. Or we don't have the money. Or I'm good. Can you call me back in a week? So if you're on here listening to that, and that's happened to you a lot, it's because you're coming across that way with your tonality, your body language, if they see you, and you're not asking the right questions. Now, if you understand the right questions to ask at the right time with the right tonality, and you come across neutral, what I mean by that, neutral and unbiased, okay, meaning you're not sure if you can even help, it triggers the brain to become curious enough that they feel like they have to engage, that they want to open up to you because you might have something very important for them. So when you're disarming the prospect like that, they become open to what you're actually doing. If you don't know how to disarm the prospect, the wall of China comes out and they just shut down and it's over.
Yes. Yes. So as you started to apply, back to your story, as you started to apply this to your door-to-door selling, how did your fortunes change? Were you able to become good at that? Was it a skill that you mastered in that stage, or did it come something else to master?
Well, yeah. You probably read maybe my background or something like that. So eventually I became one of the top 50 highest paid salespeople in the world selling anything. That was just my first job. Okay. So I made multiple 7 figures a year as a W-2. Look, over in America, like when you're employed by a company, it's called like a W-2 because you're employed by the company. So I sold for companies, right? 4 different industries over a 17-year career. On average, made multiple 7 figures a year in commissions, not sales, but actually commissions, like what the company paid me for the sales that I made. So did it work out? Yes, but I had to learn the right skills first. Without the right skills, see, I'm a big proponent of, you have to have the right mindset, but you also have to have the right skill set. Okay, look at Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time, the GOAT, as people would call him. Okay, just reading his biography the other day, he has a great mindset. But he's like, look, if you want to be the best at basketball, you can take 1,000, jump shots a day. But if you're shooting with the wrong form, if you're shooting with the wrong technique, you're not going to be very good at basketball, even with the greatest mindset in the world, right? So when your prospect picks up the phone, even though you've got a great mindset, even though you meditate and you do all these things that are very important for your success too, it's equal. Okay. But if you don't understand the right questions to ask to disarm the prospect, if you don't understand what to say that triggers them to want to engage, all your mindset stuff just goes out the window because they're reacting to what you're doing. So I'm all about mindset and skill set. You have to have both of those, and then you have to do something with it. If you just sit there and have a great mindset and a skill set, and you just sit back there and you're scared, then nothing ever happens. So it's like a 3-step combo: mindset, skill set, action, in my mind.
I love that. And that's really quotable as well. And I love Michael Jordan. He's got one of my favorite quotes that I use in my business is from Michael Jordan. And it is, "I've never lost a game. I've only ever run out of time."
Sure.
And I love this because that is the winner mindset. That is the mindset of a winner, is that you are willing to evolve and evolution and growth over a lifetime. That you're not, you can run out of time, but it doesn't mean you lost.
Well, it's about continually up-leveling your mindset. With our sales training company, our mojo, I learned this from a good mentor of mine, is training something you did, or is training something that you do? Is training something you did like in the past, and now you're never have to train anymore? Or is training something you do every day? Well, if you want to be great at what you do, you have to train every day. As the CEO of my company, his name is Matt Ryder, says, train hard to fight easy. We have a motto: train hard to sell easy, right? If you don't train hard, then selling becomes hard. If you don't do any training, selling becomes hard. It doesn't have to be. You just have to learn the right skill sets, and selling becomes easy. Because here's one thing we all have to realize. All selling is, if you boil it down, all sales is about one thing only. It's about change. Okay, so all selling is about change. It's really about how good you are at getting the prospect in their mind to see that by changing their situation, Joanna, by purchasing your product or service, by doing that, that is far less risky for them than for them to do nothing at all. Their problems remain the same and nothing ever changes and they stay in the status quo. Like, which is more risky? Okay. So when you start to think that all sales is change and you learn the right questions wrapped around that, then helping your prospects change their situation, which a lot of it is just helping them overcome certain things they believe in their mind, allows them to move forward and empower themselves to make those changes to get what they want. It's exactly what Tony Robbins does when he goes down on stage in a group of 5,000 people and a lady's, something's happened to her really bad. And she's like blaming everything. Her life's not good on everybody else. And 15 minutes later, because of the questions he's asked them, she starts to realize and is empowered, and she understands that she has the power alone to change her entire situation. She just has to choose. That's what we're talking about. That's what selling really is.
Absolutely. And yeah, and selling is literally a massive part of the coaching industry, not that selling to clients, because obviously that happens, but also as well, we're really selling them in a new mindset. This idea that they're going to think in a different way, that they're going to be in a different way, and therefore they're going to behave in a different way. Because that's ultimately what changes someone's life. That's ultimately what changes their lives. So take us back through the sands of time. We've now realized it's a bit bogus the way that they're selling the stuff in this company, but you're coming in with a psychology aspect and thinking, actually, this is going to be better. Sure. And you've got baby on the way, you've got young, newly married, all the things.
Yeah.
So how do you progress from there into where you are now? So what kind of unfolds next in your story?
Well, I kept learning. Like I said, that later that summer, I became the #1 salesperson in their entire company. They probably only had 100 salespeople, 150 salespeople. What a huge company. But a few years later, got into other industries, started making multiple 7 figures a year as a salesperson. And did I stop there? No, I kept learning. I kept applying. Like the sales training process that we have now, our methodology stands for NEPQ. It stands for Neuro Emotional Persuasion Questioning. That took me about 12 years to compile that. And we always update and improve that. Okay. It wasn't something I mastered in a month or 6 months or a year. It literally took me 12 years of trial and error. I'd go out and ask, my prospects certain questions, and I noticed that some of them wouldn't work or they would trigger certain resistance. So I had to go back and change the questions. I had to rearrange them into a process. And over that 12 years, that's where NEPQ came from. Okay. I didn't just stop there. A lot of people ask me like, oh my gosh, Jeremy, what do you do in your free time? Like when you're driving down the road, what do you listen to? I'm like, well, I don't listen to like the radio, if that's what you mean. And they're like, really? You don't listen to like talk radio or CNN to get updates on the news, or you don't have any favorite music? I'm like, well, you tell me, like, how much money does CNN make you every month by you listening to the radio on your commute back and forth to work? It doesn't make you anything, does it? Okay. How much money does those Billie Eilish songs make you, or Britney Spears? No offense, they're probably great, but how much money do those make you? Oh, nothing. You see, I don't listen to that stuff. I'm listening to stuff that I want to learn how to improve. Like I'm the chairman of the company. I don't really run the business side. I do the training side. So I'm listening to other training materials. Like maybe there's certain spots we can improve our training for our clients, our corporate clients or regular clients or whatever. Or maybe there's something in our business that we need to do better at. So we're continually learning skills to take our game to the next level. In 2020, we just won the, I'll show it to you. So I was ordering some stuff here, but this is the ink, like over here in America.
Sorry, I have a very low flying aircraft that just passed.
Well, it's the universe speaking. There you go. So we just won an award for 2020 over here in America. It's a big award. It's called the Inc. 5000 Fastest Growing Companies in the United States. Now there's over 7 million companies that apply for this every year, and they only pick the top 5,000. Okay. When we applied, we're like, oh, there's no way we're going to make that. Right. This was only like this is our 3rd year of business. So in the 2nd year, we're like, there's no way we're going to make that in the 2nd year. It's just impossible because you have to like be up here and have this growth. It's like, there's no way. Well, we ended up winning, so we we get a call and they're just like, hey,
Congratulations.
you guys qualify. You're in the Inc. 5000. And they're like, we don't actually reveal, what your ranking is for another month. You have to come to this virtual event and we share it and it's really cool. And we're like, okay, great. We probably got like 4,999. No, I'll be happy with that, 4,999. So we get the ranking and we ended up like 1,232 or 31. I can't remember. We're like, wow, we're in like the top 22%. I cannot believe this. Now, the great thing is that's 2020 revenues. For 2021, we are actually 5 times ahead. So our revenues are going to be 5 times the amount that they were in 2020. So now that's going to move us up to maybe the top 200, top 150. Okay. I would have never thought that with what we do, but it's because the officers of my company, me, the chairman, our CEO, Matt Ryder, our vice president, Marco, all these people that we have, all of us, the team is continually learning, how do we get better? We go to events, we learn the right skills because we don't want to stay in the status quo. Like this award now, we're like, okay, that's okay, but what do we do next year to get much, much better? What do we do 3 years from now? Because we want to be here. So whatever you're doing on here, the listening is about continually improving, because if you're, like I said, is training something you did or is training something that you do? If it's something that you do and you're learning from the right people, you can definitely learn from the wrong people. That's not going to help you. But if you're learning from the right trainers or coaches or whoever you're doing, then you're just going to improve every week, every month, every year. And you're going to look back 3 years from now and you're like, wow, I can't believe I was down there. I'm up here, but you're not going to be satisfied where you're at. You're going to be like, let's learn more skills to get up here, because the more skills we learn, the more people we can help, the more blessings we can provide for ourselves, but other people, for them to be able to solve their problems as well with our solutions. That's how we look at it.
I love that. I love that. And I think, really one of the things that we talk a lot about in the $1 Million Experiment is the power of education. I say that as I introduced the experiment to everybody, and the idea that we were going to, go on this journey to a 7-figure income throughout this journey. One of the things that for me that's really interesting is that I really believe to get from point A, where you are now, to point B, the goal that you want. The only thing between that gap is a lack of education, right? Because
lack of knowledge.
Otherwise you'd be doing it, right? You'd be doing it. And so it's just knowledge and it's learning. And you're so right. Like the training is something that you have to do every single day. Like you have to show up for yourself in a way that is worthy of the goal. Because otherwise what happens is that I did that training thing. I tried that thing once, and it's like,
not going to do anything for you. Yeah. We speak at events, live events before COVID and now pretty much, virtual. I think there's some live events we're doing. Yeah. First live events in November again. But, we always ask the audience at the very end, what is your biggest expense in life? Like point blank. And people are like, oh, my mortgage payment, or my kids are really expensive, or taxes, or this or that. And we're like, yeah, that's true. But what's your biggest expense? Nobody ever comes up with it. And you hit it right on the head. Your biggest expense in life is your lack of knowledge of learning the right skills required for you, like you train and coach, to become a millionaire. That's your biggest expense. Nothing else. Your biggest expense is your lack of knowledge of acquiring those skills to get to that $1 million level like you talk about. So we always do this exercise, especially with salespeople. Let's say that everybody on here wants to become a millionaire. So you take down on a piece of paper, write down what you made last year as your income. Everybody listening to this, right? Grab a pen and piece of paper. How much did you make last year? Let's say that you were an above average earner and you made 80,000 American dollars. I don't know what that is in English pounds, but if you guys do the translation,
60,000 pounds.
60,000 pounds. So let's say you're an above average earner. You make 60,000 pounds or 80,000 American dollars. Write that down. Now, above that, write down $1 million. Above that, write $1 million. 1,000,000. Okay. Now, subtract what you made last year from that $1 million.
Right.
Whatever that number is, let's say if you made 80,000, so 920,000 is the number. Circle that number and tell yourself that's your biggest expense. That's what you paid life last year, because you still haven't learned the right skills that it takes, the right mindset, the right skills to be able to know how to become a millionaire and make $1 million a year. That's your biggest expense. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to keep paying life every single year, another $920,000 a year or whatever it is, because you're still not willing to open yourself up and learn from the right people, the skills necessary to make $1 million a year? That's your biggest expense.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, I love that example. Like, if you're listening to this and you're in the $1 million experiment, do it.
That's your biggest
expense.
That
is the thing, right? That is the thing. And it is incredible how we can shift our lives. And I mean, can I take you back to making your first 7 figures?
Yeah. So
that would have been like a really monumental moment.
Yeah.
Were you expecting it that year, or was it like, did you start that year with like, this is my goal, this is my aim? Yeah. Or was it like, as you started building and building, you were like, oh my God, this is going to be possible? Or how did it look for you? Was it like, I'm laser focused, or was it like, wow, I could really do this?
If you talk to my wife, she'll be like, you were the most focused human being on planet Earth. But I didn't grow up that way. I just learned how to become disciplined that way. Yeah. You know, like my bosses, when I was in my sales career, they're like, dude, you're the most disciplined salesperson we've ever seen. Like, I'm always there early. I don't talk in the coffee line or in the kitchen. Like, I put a sign out on my door that says, do not disturb when I was prospecting. Like, nobody bothered me. And they're just like, he's in there he's just in there. They'd always say, he's in there finding and solving problems for his clients. And now he's getting all this money. That's what I did, right? I was just like a machine. Okay. So, you know, my first summer that I had that job when I was 21, I ended up making almost 200,000 in commissions. That was over a 4-month summer. Okay. Cause I was still in college. I was 21.
And so imagine, am I really rude if I ask this question? Like, you came from a farm, right? Was this a really affluent farm, or was like 200,000?
I would say like middle class.
Front door.
It was not an affluent farm. I would say definitely lower middle class, not like poor, but so not even in the middle.
Is like crazy town.
Oh yeah. I mean, my parents together might've made 70 grand. So 200,000 as a 21-year-old kid, I felt like
you'd won the lottery.
Musk or Donald Trump or whatever billionaires feel like. I don't know, right? I'm not there yet. Okay. That's how I felt, right? I was like 200,000, like I'm the richest guy, like throwing money everywhere, right? And so
so you were like the richest guy you knew at that point.
At college. Yeah, I was a junior in college. How many juniors in college are making 200 grand a year besides maybe the founder?
Exactly. It's so amazing. But
I wasn't satisfied with that, because I'm like, I need to learn more, because I know I could make more, because I'm losing some sales that I should be making. So the next year it's like 325 grand. Okay. I'm senior year in college. I actually dropped out. I dropped out with 13 credits left because I got so bored. I was making like 3 times more than the professors teaching me. So I'm like, why do I need this? I'll just go learn on my own. So the next year it was like 450,000. The next year, I think I made like 700,000 some in commissions. Okay. And I think I want to say the 50, I was around 2008, you know, after the stock market crashed and the housing crisis, 2008, 2009, yeah. In my industry, I was in at that point, like salespeople commissions, like got dropped in half. People were getting let go, like companies were closing down. And that year, the year before, 2007, I made like 50, 60,000. I don't know the exact amount. The next year, when everything was going to hell in a hell basket, everybody's worried about their jobs, I made 1.3 million in commissions. That was the first year I made over $1 million in commissions. It was right after the stock market crashed. Nobody had any money. Nobody wanted to buy anything, but it's because I kept learning the skills to solve people's problems that were
that year. Me and my husband, we doubled our income that year.
Yeah.
And my husband was reading the paper, and he was reading something out loud from the paper. And he said, and I said, put that paper down and repeat after me. And he said, okay. And he put the paper down and he looked at me and he said, okay. And I said, we do not want our credit crunchy. Because everyone was talking about the credit crunch. And I said, we do not want our credit crunchy. No, thank you. We will not be accepting that in this household. And he said, no, thank you. We will not be accepting that in this household. And that year we doubled our income.
Yeah. And I just, you know, I did that, and I kept going up. By 2012, I think that year, that was the first year I cracked 2 million a year in commissions, and eventually got up to about $3 million every year in commissions. And then late 2017, early 2018 is when I started 7th level. Okay. So that's kind of my journey. And now we're a 3-year-old company, just growing every day and helping companies and salespeople, fill in the gaps from where they are compared to where they want to be. What's the gaps? All these problems that sometimes they don't even know they had before we have a conversation with them and ask them the right questions that allow them to see what their real problems are. One thing we have to understand, and I think most salespeople and coaches don't get it sometimes, and it's not their fault, they just weren't trained how to do this, is that most of your prospects, 99% of your prospects, when you first start talking to them, don't even know what their real problems are. Or maybe they know they have a problem, but they don't know how bad the problem really is. Or maybe they don't understand the consequences or the ramifications of them not doing anything if the problem doesn't get solved. Or once you learn the right questioning skills, you're able to not only help them find one problem, but you're able to help them find 2 problems or 3 or 4 or 5 problems that they didn't even know they had. And when you're able to do that, how do they view you? They view you as like the expert, like the trusted authority, whereas all the other salespeople, they just push off to the side and commoditize them because they feel like they're just trying to stuff their solution down their throat. Okay. So we, in our day and age, we want to talk more about problem finding, becoming a problem finder and problem solver rather than a product pusher. It's a lot different.
Very much a different energy. So I don't need to ask you how important is mindset, because you have clearly demonstrated that you are a very, very different human that started as a little chicken nugget when you were 21 selling. Yeah. And even in that year, you really transformed massively just through mindset. It's
mindset and skill set. Mindset and skill set equals action. Mindset, skill set gives you, see, when you have the right mindset and you have the right skill set, it creates what we call certainty in your mind. And when you have certainty, because you know exactly what to do, you take action because you're not afraid of anything, because you have certainty, because you have the right skill set, and you also have the right way. It's one of the things that we teach. We teach that a lack of clarity stops you from taking action. 100%.
Right. And you don't know what you're doing. It's so much easier to take. It's not even a thing. It's not even a thought like, oh, will I take action? When I take action? Of course you'll take action. You know that it's going to work. But when you don't know that it's going to work,
you're never going to take action if you don't know what you're doing. It's just human. It's against our human behavior. You're never going to take full action unless you feel confident in your knowing what you're doing. And you have to learn the right skills. You learn the right skills, you're going to take action. It's just the way it is, because you know what you're doing. You have confidence. You have certainty. So I love that. And what's on your mind? What do you want to ask me?
I want to ask you a question. I'm a bit scared to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Does intuition ever feature in your business? Is that something that you rely on, or is that like?
Well, let me ask you, what do you mean by intuition? That means different things to different people.
Right. So intuition is a knowing that comes from inside. So there's like a gut feeling, like you're going with something, maybe it makes no sense on paper. Maybe it makes no sense on, like in the world of statistics and things like that. It doesn't really maybe make sense, but there's just something inside you that says, let's go this way. Let's do it this way. And you do, and it works out.
Well, I think I do a bit of that. I think when you're a business owner, you have to have the right team around you. And I think certain people on your team have different skill sets than maybe you do. So like our CEO of my company, I would say, has better intuition about certain business decisions than I do. My brain, like my wife was like, you're like freaking Einstein. Like all you know how to do is human behavior, persuasion. If I asked you to go out and like change the oil, you would be lost. That's how my brain works. I have one skill set only. That's it. But like our CEO of the company, I would say he has better intuition about making those right decisions than even I do. That's why he makes most of those decisions. Now we confer, of course, but I think a lot of times you just have to have the right team around you. Now, if you're a solopreneur, you're going to have to learn those skills. Okay. But eventually, as you build out your company, if you're going to be a business owner, you can't do all that on your own because you're just missing certain skill sets that you just do not have or you've not acquired yet. Okay. But other people that you bring in have those skills. Okay. So it's like a team effort. Once I got the right team around us, because the first year was just me and my assistant, and that was about it. We were just kind of like trying to figure it out. The second year we got in the right team, and we went from like here to here, like in months. And now we've gone like way past here.
In my company, it's been a huge up level.
You just have to bring in the right people. So absolutely. I think intuition's a lot of it. I just think certain people have better intuition than others. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if that's something that God just bestows on you.
I'm going to blow your mind. It's a skill that you can learn.
Okay. I'm sure it is.
It is a skill, because that's what I work with a lot. I help people to develop their intuition.
Yeah, I like it.
That is the essence of unity consciousness, is that you really work with all of the skills that you have, but you develop them further as well. So I love this.
I believe you on that for sure.
I have loved this conversation, because I don't think we've had many podcasts really on the selling aspect and the things of selling. I'm sure that you've blown a lot of people's minds, especially with this idea.
Oh, we just went over like this much.
I know, but I think there's been a lot, like, because we've been doing this experiment now we started on the 1st of January. So for anyone who's in the $1 Million Experiment, we've been really building our skill set. We've been building our resilience. We've been building our intuition muscles. We've been building our skill set, basically. To climb that mountain, to climb the mountain of 7 figures. And I love everything that you've said. If you were to leave our audience with something, what would be your advice for someone who really is serious about taking their business, their lives into that 7-figure stratosphere?
It's number one advice. You have to learn how to communicate properly. Otherwise, nothing else matters. If you don't learn the right skills in that field, because that field solves really everything. I don't care if your operations are bad or maybe something other is bad in your company, but everything comes from your sales. If you don't have sales, nothing survives. Like nothing exists without sales. Okay. So everything else has to be good. Yes, but sales is the foundation of that. Because if you don't have sales, nothing can be paid for. Team members can't be paid, doesn't work. So you have to learn the right skills. And if your people on here ever want to learn more about what we do or anything, we have a free Facebook group they can even check out.
We're going to link all your links below.
Sure.
So tell people, apart from this free Facebook group, and we'll make sure the link is below, where else do you love to hang out on social media? Where can people see regular content from you? Where's your favorite?
Yeah, I'd say there's 2 places. You can follow us on IG. We post a lot there. You'll have the handle here. I think it's Jeremy Lee Minor, MINER, but I think you should have the handle. If you don't, just let my people know. But the best place that we hang out is in our private Facebook groups. We have a Facebook group that has about 10,000 salespeople, coaches, entrepreneurs in it. We just started about 6 months ago. It's like rapidly growing. And we come in there and I do lives about 4 to 5 times a week with different subject matter trainings, all free for people that are in sales or business or coaching or whatever you're doing. And right when you join the Facebook group, it's called Sales Revolution. You'll probably have the link here, Sales Revolution. Right when you join, there'll be like a 3-question survey. We ask you like what industry you're in, just helps with our analytics. So we know who's in the group, kind of what you sell, what your price points are of your products or services. That gives us more data. And then right when you join, somebody on my team will tag you and check your DMs on your Facebook Messenger. And we actually send you a free 45-minute training on what's called objection prevention. How do you prevent objections from even happening in your prospects' minds? Okay, not even objection handling. How do you prevent objections from even happening in their minds? It's next level. Okay, so we just give that to you for free. You can check out. We have some free resources in there. Put your notifications on when we go live. You can check us out. That's probably the best way. That's where we hang out a lot for sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for this conversation. I've absolutely loved it.
It was fun.
And really, really exciting. And I know that people are going to love this episode. So please do go and check out Jeremy and his Facebook group and all the things. I will speak to you soon. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Joanna.